Hi everyone, welcome back. This is part 3 of the Maamar Yehi Hashem Elokeinu Imanu. The Rebbe said this on Gimmel Tammuz, Tafshin Chaf Daled, 1966. I think I just realized in the previous videos I've been saying 1926, but it's been 1966. Alright, just quick recap of the last two videos. The more I get into this Maamar, the more I remember how very not mathematical, because we're not dealing with math, but the English version of mathematical, the linguistical, how linguistic this Maamar is. It's very like going on the nuances of the wordings, of the phrasings of the Previous Rebbe. So in the previous videos, we brought the sicha that the Previous Rebbe said on Gimmel Tammuz when he was on his way from his imprisonment to Kastramat, on the way to his exile. And he said this Maamar from the verse Yehi Hashem Elokeinu Imanu. May Hashem our God be with us like He was with our forefathers. May He not change us nor forsake us, or may He not leave us nor forsake us. And the Previous Rebbe gave words of chizuk, encouragement. Hashem should be with us and will be with us. Even though we're not comparable to our forefathers, on their level of Mesiras Nefesh, Hashem should be with us. And the Rebbe is going on this idea. He brought the question: why is it a promise and an assurance, seemingly opposite ideas? Why is it? How can he include himself in this request or in this assurance? If he's saying we're not like our forefathers, where clearly he is like his forefather, where he is like our forefathers on the level of Mesiras Nefesh. We had that question, and then we talked about also why is he using the word im, which shows on the aspect that whatever is being im to, like imanu, being with us, whatever it is secondary to us. Like ketchup and fries, ketchup is secondary to the fries. The fries is the ikar, it's the primary part of the thing. So when it was saying Hashem Elokeinu Imanu, us, we are the seemingly the main aspect to the whole to the whole equation, and Hashem Elokeinu is secondary. So we have that question, why? And we said that it's because when it comes to our purpose in this world is to do mitzvahs, it's our avodah. Our avodah is the ikar, it's the primary responsibility of ours, and it's not Hashem Elokeinu, which represents Gila Milamayla, Hashem's revelations. It's nice, but it's not the ikar. It's not what we're doing things for. We're not doing things for Hashem's revelations. It's nice that we get Hashem's revelations, and it helps us. It gives us encouragement. But the main part of our life, of our service, is our service. It's to do what we have to do, and that comes from. We said it comes from Yehi Hashem, which is the treasure, Hashem's treasure. Why is it Hashem's treasure? Because it says everything's in the hands of heaven except Yehi Hashem, Yiras Shamayim, fear of heaven. Why? Because like a treasure, it's something you have to collect from others. It's not something you already have. And Yiras Hashem, you can't force someone to have Yiras Hashem. That's like a dictator, and Hashem doesn't work as a dictator. He could, and it's not impossible, but that's not what his goal is. Right? His goal is that we should accept on him a king. Like we have the mitzvah, Soim Tasim Alecha, you should have a king upon yourself, and it comes from fear of him. We declare that this is a king, and we will fear him, we will respect him, and we'll do what we want. We will be bittul to him. We will nullify ourselves to him because this is our job, and that's our primary responsibility. Not what the king gives us, not the riches and rewards that the king gives us, the miracles, wonders and miracles that Hashem gives us. That's not what we do things for. It's nice, but like I said, we just do it because we've made ourselves a servant to Hashem. That was all discussed in the previous video. And now we're going to go on to chapter Daled, and maybe Hey. We'll just stay with Daled for now. It's also we're going to go on another little adventure on nuances in Lashon, in wording. And we're going to see what that means. It's going to go more on this idea of the strength of being bittul and Mesiras Nefesh. Okay? So those who are following along, which I encourage you all to do, we're on chapter Daled. Let's go. V'hinei lashon im shayach kishiyesh dibyon bein shnei hadvarim. The word im, with, it makes sense to use the word im when there is a similarity between the two things. If we're going to say ketchup with fries, we're only going to say im. I don't know, ketchup im chips in Hebrew. We're only going to use the word im if the two things are connected to each other. And they are. I'm gonna try and hold back from using this analogy because it feels very far removed from this topic we're talking about. I'm talking about like Maamar, Hasidus, bring ketchup and fries. It's just something I'm bringing to make you understand. But the idea is the word im. It's used when there is a connection. There is a similarity between the two things that are being brought together. So Kedoshas Razal, like the sages darished, like they talked about, al pasuk v'hisyat tzuvu sham imcha. There's a pasuk from Baalei Sicha, it was a few weeks ago, the Pasha, and it means, and they shall stand there with you. And they said on this pasuk, imcha b'daimin l'cha. The word imcha is similar to you, meaning when whatever the pasuk, the verse is referring to, it might be the Jews, and I think it's the Jews, Bnei Yisrael and Moshe. Hashem's talking to Moshe, and he's saying like when the Jews will stand with you, and in that situation, they are connected to each other. They are similar to each other. Okay, so he used the word imcha with you. There is a similarity between the two. Da'agam sheloshet im made al davar tafel canal sif base mikal malkam yesh demion leikir. So even though that the word im with shows it's referring to a thing that's secondary, like we said in last video, nevertheless there's still a similarity to the primary thing. The secondary has a comparison to the primary. And we have the same concept with the word s. Okay, there's no real translation at the moment for this word s, but whenever we have the word s, there's a similarity. Shemira al davar tafel kedosh razal al pasuk es besare es hatafel lebasare. Like we have this idea that s, it's bringing something that it's secondary to whatever it's s to. So we have the sages spoke about the pasuk, the verse es besare, which is in Parshas Mishpatim. It's talking about his flesh. I think it's referring to it for bull, gored a man. You killed the bull, and you cannot eat from his flesh. That's what the verse says. But I don't know exactly here how to translate the word es. But the sages said that the word es is secondary to basare, to his flesh. But then we say malkal makam hu b'daimela ikir, and nevertheless it's still similar to the primary thing. Kedash Razal. So now we have the sages saying how s is tough. It's how even though it's tafel to the ikir, it's secondary to the primary thing. There's still a similarity. How? So that the sages said ala pasuk on the verse v'nis'u itcha, and v'nos'u itcha, they shall bear with you. This is from Parshas Yisrael. Not sure what this verse is talking about, but there is a long footnote in at the bottom of the bottom of the page. Whoever is following, and the Rebbe does talk about how, how they compares it. What's it called? The s, the im. I'm not going to go into it, but pretty much here as well, there's a comparison. So it says itcha b'daimin l'cha. When we said they shall bear with you, I think the Jews bearing with Moshe again. I don't know, there's some burden they have to bear. They are being compared to Moshe as well again. All right, mavor b'sifrei dikduk. So we now, before I continue, just because we're talking about a lot of words and the meanings behind it, the rules, how they work grammatically, I guess, in Hebrew. We're saying im, the same word es, they have a rule, I guess, that whenever they're brought, the thing that it's referring to is tafel, is secondary to whatever it is with. So imcha, it's the whatever it is with, it's like with you, it's secondary to the you, or es itcha, with you. It also means with you, but it's also a secondary thing, being secondary to the primary thing, to you. But now we're going to say mavar b'sifrei b'dikduk da tafel hamarumas b'lashon es hu tafel yoser ma tafel b'lashon im. So it's explained there's a book, Sifrei Dikduk. I don't know what the Sefer is about, but just the name of it means like the books of nuances, I guess. That's a good word to use, Dikduk. That the secondary aspect that's hinted by the word es is more secondary than the secondary aspect that's being hinted in the word im. You have es and im, and es is more secondary than the im being secondary. They're both secondary aspects, but es is more secondary. And this is where the Rebbe brings this footnote, how he says in the verses that we brought, that the sages brought, we had V'hisyatzvu sham imcha, and then we had V'nas'u itcha. The Rebbe compares how one is more secondary than the other. I'm not going to go into it, but as all we need to know right now, es is more secondary, and im is still secondary, but not as secondary. Okay? I guess like they're just how the level of removement from the ikar is. Okay, so ba'al pi zeh, according to all of this, and as far as I know, this is how far it gets with all the nuances in the phrasings. Now we're just going to the rest of this Maamar. From memory, there's no more of that. It's now just Hasidus. No more linguistic classes, no more grammar, none of that. Okay, so according to everything we said, that es is more secondary than im. Im is less secondary. According to that, but lashon es ikar hadgasha hu shadavar she'emer malav es hu rak tafel. Okay, that the word es. Okay, so I guess a little bit more nuanced stuff, but this is it. The word es, the primary emphasis is on the thing. Is that the thing is only secondary. So whenever we're saying es, like we had v'nas'u itcha, they shall bear with you. They who are bearing with you, I guess the Jewish people, in this situation, that it's being emphasized that they are only secondary. They are only tafel. But im ikar hadgasha hu ala dmiyun d'shnei devram. When we have the word im, the primary emphasis is on the similarity between the two things. So just to clear things up, and then I think it's as far as it gets with these technicalities. When you have es, why it's using the word es is to tell you, it's like to emphasize to you that there is. It's only a secondary thing. That there's a distance between them. That this is a secondary and this is the primary thing. And the primary thing is more of importance. And when you have the word im, what it's bringing, it's what it's coming to, I guess, show you, like emphasize, like to point out, is that there is something similar between them. That there's a comparison between them. Okay? Now, when we move on. From this we understand. Now we're going to go back into the Chassidus. Sha'ikar hadgasha b'yi Yehi Hashem Elokeinu Imanu hu loisha Yehi Hashem Elokeinu hu tafel kiviyachal ha'adam ela da'admiyun kiviyachal shebneihem. That the primary emphasis with the verse Yehi Hashem Elokeinu Imanu, that Hashem our God should be with us, is not that Hashem our God is secondary, chas v'shalom, like so to speak, to us, to people. Not that Hashem, we're saying Hashem Elokeinu Imanu, meaning Hashem is secondary to us. We're not saying, we're not using the word im to say that. We're saying that there's a similarity, so to speak, between them. It is still a secondary and primary thing, but the real lesson is that there's a similarity between them. And we could say that the similarity between them is the idea of ikar and tafel. Like the Rebbe is saying that, okay, the word imanu, like im in this imanu and im avseinu, why it's being brought up is that the similarity between them is the idea of primacy. primacy, and secondary. I don't know how to say those words properly. What's ikar and what's tafel? Okay, let's explain. The Gemara shashleimus da avodas adam hi k'sha'avodah shalai hi b'keach atzmai shalachein havaya lekeinu hu tafel k'vyachol adam kanal sif base. Okay, just like that, the completion or the perfect level of service of a person is when his service is in his own power, meaning he's doing it from himself, not from any assistance. I mean, I guess assistance is good, but like he's doing it like with, it's coming from himself, not like someone forcing it upon him. When it's coming from that, therefore Hashem Elokeinu is secondary, so to speak, to Hashem, to the person. Like we said, it's base. The whole thing in the last video is saying why we have Imanu, Hashem Elokeinu Imanu, is because we're not doing things for any certain rewards or anything. He's doing it because he's doing it for himself. Like he's deciding to be the servant of Hashem. And so when we have it in that way, when the whole avodah of a person is doing it in that way, it's becoming in his own power. Therefore, Hashem Elokeinu is tafel, so to speak, too. It's secondary to the person. And similarly it is to the other hand. Shashleimus da avodas adam hi k'shavadasoi. Gam ha'avodah b'keach atzmai, gam ha'avodah b'mesiras nefesh, keilu gam ha'mesiras nefesh al inyanim she'al-pi din ein chayev l'b'ser nafshe aleim. He lo mipnei shehu reitzeh la'avodas Hashem ela mipnei shehu bitul elikus. So now we're saying like another approach to Avodas Adam. When the service of the person in completion is, when his service is, and we're saying the service meaning like even if it should still be coming from himself, not like he's doing it for reasons, but he's doing it for himself, and he's also doing the service of sacrificing his soul, and even sacrificing himself, he's sacrificing his soul on things that he's not. Like according to law, he has to sacrifice his soul on, but we said it's such a high level. So even including all that, his when his service is not because that he wants to serve Hashem, rather it's because he's nullified himself to godliness. Meaning, I think the Rebbe might explain, but meaning that a person can decide, I want to give my all to Hashem. I want to serve Him with all my might. That's great, and we're not saying anything wrong with that. We're not saying any chas v'shalom. That's such a high level to achieve. And B'ezrat Hashem, we should all achieve that level. It's such a great level. So that's when we're saying Havaya Elokeinu is secondary. It's tafel to the person. Meaning he's not doing it for the Havaya Elokeinu, which is the godliness, the rewards and riches. But when we're saying the person, he's doing all this work. He's sacrificing himself. He's doing all of Hashem's Torah mitzvahs, not for the rewards, but he's just doing it for himself. But the way he's doing it is he doesn't really want to. He's not saying. He's just doing it because he's a servant of Hashem. This is what we're talking about. This is something else. Okay. The kevan should betul like Hakadosh Baruch Hu who betul betachlas. L'chein kol mitzvah v'mitzvah gam k'shal pidin ein l'chayav l'mser nafshe al zeh. He etzloi ba'efin she'ein shayach klal shaloi l'kaima. Afilu k'shekaimu hu al yedei mesiras nefesh. So since that his nullification to Hashem, to Hakadosh Baruch Hu, is the ultimate nullification, therefore each and every mitzvah, even the ones that he's not obligated to, according to the law, to the letter of the Torah law, that he doesn't have to sacrifice his soul on this, it is to him, it's like the approach to these mitzvahs is there's no way where he would not like this. It's not even like connected to him a possibility of not even fulfilling this mitzvah, even when this fulfillment of mitzvahs is through sacrificing the soul. If a person is doing it because of his own ratzon, he wants to give himself over to Hashem. What if suddenly, for chas v'shalom, whatever some reason, this a person decides he doesn't want to do that anymore? He's like, I'm not feeling it today. I feel like, just serve Hashem regularly. I'll put on tefillin. I'll do the mitzvahs, but like he's not like really giving it at all. He's like, I want to feel good. That's why. He could change his mind. He might not drop to such a low level chas v'shalom where he's not fulfilling any mitzvahs at all. But I'm saying his approach to mitzvahs might suddenly change because he decided he wants to. That's not ideal. The most ideal way to approach service of God, and we kind of talked about this in a previous Maamar, in the Rani V'Simchi Bastien Maamar. We talked about the level of daughter being higher than the mother is because the mother is, even though it's Mesiras Nefesh, giving it over to Hashem, is I'm giving myself over to Hashem. That's something I might not want to. There's always a possibility that he could change his mind. But when it's not coming from that point, when it's just I'm a servant to Hashem, I don't care what I want. This can sound harsh, like, it sounds like a person might have self-hate, he doesn't care about himself, but no. It's still caring about yourself, but if they realize that the true care about themselves is that the care for Hashem. And if they just serve Hashem with all their might, with their whole being, and not because they want to, but just because it's Hashem, of course they will be fine, they'll take care of themselves. It's not a self-hate kind of situation, if this is something you might have thought. But it's just a higher level of it's the more ultimate level of nullifying your soul to Hashem, when it's not coming from your own will, but it's coming from just that's it. This is what I'm doing. I'm nullifying myself to Hashem. And in this method, in this approach, there's no idea chas v'shalom to even not fulfill such any mitzvahs, especially when it comes to Mesiras Nefesh. You're going to be Mesiras Nefesh all the way. Sacrifice your soul with every little aspect of your life, because this is your existence. Okay. So I'll continue. The Yesh Lahosef, and we can add to this. The Ali de Abitul Lelakus mitosef gam b'hamesiras nefesh. When through this nullifying yourself to Elikus, to godliness, it adds also on the Mesiras Nefesh, on his sacrificing of the soul. Dakasher hamesiras nefesh shalayim ibnei shehu reitel la'achlit l'kaim tzivah hakadosh baruch hu gam keshetzarich l'zeh mesiras nefesh. So this is kind of what I was already saying. I jumped the gun. That when his Mesiras Nefesh, his sacrifice of the soul, is because that he wants and he decided to fulfill the commandment of Hashem, even when it's sacrificing his soul. Even when there's a need to the sacrificing of the soul. Meaning, let's say there's an obligation. Like, it doesn't make a difference if it's an obligation or not. He decided, I'm going to decide, I'm going to fulfill Hashem's commandments. There is to him a place, it gives a place that there's a possibility he might do it in another way. So before I mentioned that he might just change his mind not to do it. But when it's coming from, the Rebbe is now saying something else. When a person's coming from their own decision, from their own rotzain, there is him involved, and the person sometimes they're biased, they have ulterior motives. Is that the word? Like they have some ulterior motive. They might have another idea what to do. So maybe the perfect version of for the fulfillment of the mitzvah, even when it comes to Mesiras Nefesh, sacrificing the soul, might not be perfect. It might not be the way Hashem wants it, because there's him involved. He's wanting to do it. I want to do it. I'm deciding what to be Mesiras Nefesh. So there's still a way that I might decide how to do it, and it might not be the way Hashem wants it to be done. That in the action of it, I guess, in the actuality way, he's standing in Mesiras Nefesh. It's only because he decided to do so. I decided I'm gonna go outside today, do Mesiras Nefesh, go get out of my balance, get out of my ego, just serve Hashem, help other Yidden. It's great. It's a good thing. But it's not the ultimate. It's not like the highest level of service of Hashem. Now we're gonna say what it is. Masha enkein kisham Mesiras Nefesh Elohi mipnei bitula la'Kadosh Baruch Hu shelachein kol mitzvah shetzaveh HaKadosh Baruch Hu he etzlei ba'ofen she'ein shayach klal shelo l'kaima harei az ein netinas mokim klal shayeh ba'ofen acher. So on the other hand, like we talked about this service, when it's coming from the person's own decision and it gives place where it gives a place for the person to decide to do it in his own way. We talked about that. On the other hand, when there's his sacrifice of the soul is because he's nullification to Hashem, where he's just doesn't care about his own will. He doesn't care. He's made his will Hashem's will pretty much. Therefore, every mitzvah that's command of Hashem is to him in a way that there's no possibility, there's no idea that even coming to his mind at all that he would not fulfill such a mitzvah. And then there is no given place. There's no place within him where he might think to do it in such a way, like where he thinks, maybe tefillin should be done with pink straps because they're more brighter, more. I don't know. Just give an example. There's a halacha on how to do certain mitzvahs, and when a person's doing it because this is Hashem's commandment, he's nullified to himself to Hashem. That's the way it's going to be done, and he's going to go all the way perfectly. When a person's doing it from his own feelings, his own decisions, it could be good, and usually we find that it is good if people are doing it the right way. But there is still always a possibility, because it's coming from his own decision, that he might decide to do it in another way, or might decide not to do it at all anymore. Chas v'shalom. Especially when it comes to Mesiras Nefesh, which is the highest service to Hashem. And this is not what we want. We want to achieve the highest service to Hashem because that's what we want. We want to connect to Hashem the highest way. Not because we want. Like I said, we don't. It's not about our want, but we're here to serve our Creator. We're here to make a place for Hashem to dwell, and that can only be done not because we're not deciding how Hashem wants to dwell in this world. I don't know if I've given it in this series of this Maamar, but I've definitely mentioned it in a previous Maamar. I think there's like a husband and wife, and the husband, he wants his morning coffee in a certain way, and he can make it himself. No problem. He knows how to make coffee, but it's nice. He gets a good feeling when his wife makes him his coffee. By the way, for those who might get offended about the gender roles, it could be flipped the other way. The analogy still works, but the point is, he likes it when when his wife makes the coffee, and his wife, he's asked his wife, "Can you make me coffee?" And she said, "Okay. I want to make my husband a coffee, and I know how coffee tastes the best." She goes, I know how coffee tastes really nice. So she makes this nice coffee. It could be the really nice coffee where it has, certain roasted beans that were grinded in a specific way, using the freshest milk, whatever, like in the certain way where she thinks this is a really good way. But she gives it to her husband. The husband might drink it and like, "Hey, you gave me coffee, but this is not really what I wanted." If you listen to what I want, meaning he said he just wants coffee, but I'm saying maybe he has his ways how he likes his coffee. Just simple coffee could be 1 spoon of espresso, half a sugar, oat milk, hot water, half milk. Whatever the coffee desire he wants, and he has his way he likes it. If his wife is making coffee because he wants his coffee, she'll make it the way he wants it, not because of the way she thinks how coffee should be made. That's the whole analogy. The whole point is that we're here to make our husbands happy. Our husband being Hashem, we're the wife to Hashem. And when we're doing it because of that, then there's no room for there's no wiggle room for change and doing things the way it shouldn't be done. The way it should be done is Torah mitzvahs. We learn the Torah, we learn the Gemara, and we dive in, see how Hashem wants his cup of coffee, meaning how he wants all his mitzvahs done, how he wants Mesiras Nefesh done. And so we're going to hold here. Avodas Hashem, next week on Gimmel Tammuz itself, the Avodas Hashem, I will come out with the last video, part 4, which will go through the last 2 chapters. And with that, should have an amazing Shabbos. We should have it's also Rosh Chodesh, have an amazing Chodesh, a good Chodesh of Geula. This is the month of the Geula of the Previous Rebbe, and it extends into our Rebbe, and it should be the Geula of us, because we are the Chassidim of the Rebbe, and to all Jews, because ultimately the Rebbe is the king of all Jews, and we shall experience the Geula now. Chaim.